We met during my senior year of college. She was in her junior year, majoring in psychology. I was finishing up my business degree and spending most of my nights between the library and late-night diners. Rachel was this magnetic force, funny, quick-witted, confident. She had this way of drawing people in without trying too hard. I met her at a mutual friend's party. We ended up on the balcony, both trying to escape the noise, and started talking. She made some sarcastic comment about the music being terrible. I laughed, and we ended up talking until 3 a.m. Things moved fast after that. Within 6 months, we were living together. A couple of years later, we got married in her hometown. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. We bought a cozy little house in the suburbs and started building our life brick by brick. I landed a steady job in logistics, which kept us comfortable. Rachel worked in social services part-time. She loved her field, especially the counseling side, and was passionate about helping people. I always admired that about her. A couple years into marriage, we had our daughter, Lily. Everything changed then, but in the best way. Parenthood threw us into this new chapter of life, with sleepless nights, early mornings, diapers, and daycare. But we found our groove. Rachel took time off in the beginning, then transitioned back into part-time work once Lily started preschool. I shifted my schedule to help out more at home. We made it work. Our house isn't flashy, but it's home. A 2-story place with a fenced yard where Lily plays with our golden retriever, Scout. We've got the grill out back, a swing on the porch, and a fridge full of sticky notes and school drawings. Every Friday night, we order takeout and watch something animated for Lily. It's a routine now, something we all look forward to. Rachel's the planner in our relationship. She keeps the calendar, handles the school forms, remembers birthdays. I take care of the bills, the yard, the maintenance stuff. It's not always perfect, but we've got balance. We've built something together, something solid. At least, that's what I believed. Rachel and I have always had a rhythm. Not the kind you see in movies where every day is some big romantic gesture, but a quieter kind of rhythm. The type that builds over time. Familiar, comfortable. Something you can lean on when everything else in life feels unpredictable. Our weekdays start early. I'm usually up before the sun, getting ready for work while the house is still quiet. Rachel gets up about an hour later to get Lily ready for school. She's great with morning routines, organized, calm, even when Lily's dragging her feet or insisting on wearing rain boots in the middle of July. I leave the house by 7, but not before Scout circles the kitchen for a bite of toast and Rachel gives me a quick kiss on the cheek. Work keeps me busy. Logistics isn't glamorous, but it pays well and gives us a stable life. Rachel works 2 days a week at a local mental health clinic and spends the rest of her time juggling school drop-offs, playdates, and her little side hustle flipping vintage furniture. That's something she started last year, buying old chairs or dressers at estate sales and giving them a new life with a coat of paint and some new hardware. She's good at it. Creative. Detail-oriented. Evenings are our time. I usually get home around 6. Dinner's a shared effort. Sometimes I cook, sometimes she does, sometimes we order out and eat on the back porch if the weather's good. Lily tells us about school, what her teacher said, what her friend's dog did, what she drew in art class. Rachel listens with that same warm smile she had back in college. She's always been good at being present. Weekends are for family. Saturday mornings, we take Scout to the park or head to the farmer's market. Rachel insists on picking out the good apples, and I trail behind with the canvas bag. Sunday afternoons, we usually visit my family. My parents live 20 minutes away, and my brother Jake swings by sometimes too. Lily adores her uncle. He brings her little toys or makes goofy faces until she laughs so hard she can't breathe. Rachel and Jake get along well enough. He always says something snarky about her obsession with throw pillows. She rolls her eyes, and then they go back to whatever conversation they were having. It's not a fairy tale, but it's real. And I thought we were happy. No major fights, no big resentments. Just the occasional debate about laundry or what to watch on Netflix. We had a life that worked, one we both put effort into. We were a team. At least, that's how it felt to me. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking, this is what success looks like. Not the kind you read about in Forbes or see on social media, but something quieter, more grounded. A clean kitchen at night. Laughter from the living room. A half-finished puzzle on the dining table that no one wants to admit we've lost a few pieces to. That was our life, and for a long time, I thought we had done something right. Rachel and I had settled into our roles without much friction. She was the social one, always texting someone, planning weekend outings, making sure Lily stayed connected with friends. I was more reserved. I preferred my evenings quiet, my routines in place. But she balanced me out. She kept things interesting, and I grounded her when she started spinning in too many directions. That's how we worked. We had a circle of friends we'd known for years. Every couple of months, we'd host a little get-together at our place, game nights, backyard barbecues, the occasional holiday dinner. Rachel loved hosting. She had this way of making things look effortless. The food was always good, the music just right, the decorations surprisingly thoughtful for someone who claimed she didn't even try this time. I'd play bartender, pour drinks, man the grill. We were a good team. Jake, my younger brother, was part of that circle too. He lived in the city but made the drive out every few weeks. He was the opposite of me in almost every way: loud, charismatic, always in the middle of a story or joke. Rachel got along with him better than most. She could go toe-to-toe with his sarcasm, and I remember thinking it was nice that they clicked. It made family gatherings easier. I never thought twice about it. Lily, our daughter, was 7 now. She had Rachel's eyes, my smile, and a stubborn streak that was equal parts both of us. She was bright, curious, and always talking. Sometimes too much. I'd get home from work, and she'd be waiting at the door with a list of things to tell me: what happened at school, what she drew, what her friends said, what Scout did when nobody was looking. Rachel would roll her eyes affectionately and say, "She's been waiting for you all day." I believed we were building something lasting. A home. A family. I thought the hard part was behind us. Those early marriage adjustments, the sleepless nights with a newborn, the scramble to find our financial footing. I thought we were finally in the stretch where things leveled out. I had no idea how fragile it all really was. It started with small things. At first, I didn't even register them as unusual. Rachel had always been unpredictable in little ways: spontaneous dinner plans, sudden mood swings, bursts of energy followed by days of exhaustion. But something shifted, subtly, and for a while I told myself I was imagining it. The first thing I noticed was how often she was on her phone. I mean, we all live with those things glued to our hands, but Rachel had always been present, especially during family time. Lately, she'd started stepping out of the room to answer texts. Or she'd be mid-conversation and suddenly distracted, glancing down, typing quickly before slipping it face down onto the counter. She used to leave it lying around. Now it never left her side. I didn't say anything. Not at first. I trusted her. I had no reason not to. Then there were the outings. More girls' nights, more work dinners that ran later than usual. I'd ask who she was meeting, and she'd toss out a name casually: people I didn't know, friends she never mentioned before. Once or twice I offered to drive her or pick her up. She waved me off both times. "Don't be ridiculous," she said, laughing it off. "It's just dinner." Rachel also started dressing differently. Not drastically, but there was more effort, more time spent in front of the mirror before leaving the house. She bought new clothes, new makeup. She said she wanted to feel good again, get out of the mom slump. I said I loved her either way, and I meant it. But still, it nagged at me. The intimacy changed too. We weren't fighting. We just weren't connecting. The light touches, the quiet moments on the couch, the casual affection, they started to vanish. I'd reach for her, and she'd be just out of reach, both physically and emotionally. I asked once if she was okay, and she smiled that tight, practiced smile. "I'm fine. Just tired." I told myself it was stress. Maybe she was going through something she hadn't told me about. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. So I doubled down. I took over more around the house, planned a weekend getaway, just the two of us. She said she couldn't, too much going on with work, too many loose ends to tie up. There was no shouting, no accusations. Nothing concrete I could point to. But something in my gut had started whispering, something's off. And that whisper was getting louder. There's something unsettling about watching the person you love become a stranger right in front of you, and not knowing when it started. Rachel had always been sharp, confident, the kind of woman who could walk into any room and command it. But lately, she moved through our house like a guest, gracious, polite, distant. She smiled when she needed to, talked when prompted, but her energy was elsewhere, somewhere I didn't have access to. She started spending more time getting ready before going out. Not just for dinners or errands, sometimes just for a quick run to the store. She'd emerge from the bedroom in full makeup, freshly done hair, a new outfit. I'd comment, teasing lightly, and she'd brush it off. A girl can't feel good about herself anymore? I didn't push back. I didn't want to be that husband, the one who polices appearances or second-guesses independence. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't dressing for herself, not entirely. One evening, I came home early from work. She hadn't expected me. I found her in the kitchen on the phone, her voice hushed and soft in a way I hadn't heard in a long time. She didn't see me right away. I didn't listen in. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the moment she noticed me, she startled, quickly ending the call with a too fast, "Okay, I'll talk to you later." I asked who it was. She smiled. "Just Lauren, her coworker. We were going over some stuff for a fundraiser." It made sense. Rachel had been helping organize charity events through her clinic, but something in the way she said it, too fast, too polished, made me pause. I nodded and said nothing. The silence between us started taking up more space. I'd find myself watching her, studying her movements the way you do when something feels off but you can't quite place it. She was kind, still polite, but there was a wall between us now. Conversation stayed surface level. Jokes didn't land. Little things, touches, glances, routines faded without either of us acknowledging it. Lily didn't notice, thankfully. She was still her bubbly, oblivious self. School, homework, cartoons. But I started to feel like Rachel and I were acting, like we were performing for her sake, smiling on cue, keeping the structure intact, even as the foundation shifted beneath us. I still hadn't said anything. What could I say? That I had a feeling? That her lipstick seemed too bright, her laughter too rehearsed? I couldn't bring myself to voice it, not because I was afraid of the answer, but because I didn't know how to ask the question. So I stayed quiet. And that quiet started to feel louder than anything else. There's a particular kind of loneliness that creeps in when you're sharing a bed with someone who feels miles away. I've never been great at putting emotions into words, but lately, even the silence between us feels different. Heavier. Not the comfortable kind of quiet you share with someone you know inside and out, but the kind where you're both waiting, unsure of what for, unsure of how long it'll last. Rachel and I still moved through the same routines. Wake up, get Lily ready, go to work, come home, eat dinner. But somewhere along the way, those routines stopped feeling like shared responsibilities and more like parallel tracks. We weren't connecting. We weren't even bumping into each other emotionally. It was like she was living one version of life, and I was stuck in another, watching her from across some invisible line. I started noticing more things, and maybe they were small on their own, but together they painted a picture I didn't want to look at. She guarded her phone like it held national secrets. It went everywhere with her, into the bathroom, out to the backyard, even into the laundry room. She'd angle the screen away from me when it buzzed, and sometimes I'd catch a smile she didn't realize she was wearing before it quickly vanished when I walked into the room. Her excuses stayed consistent, always some meeting, a friend from work, a group chat. She was good at sounding casual, good at explaining just enough to quiet questions without really answering them. And I kept letting it slide. Maybe because I didn't want to believe what my gut was starting to suggest. Maybe because I kept telling myself that every couple goes through phases, and that doubt didn't always mean disaster. I tried to re-engage. I suggested date nights. I offered to take a weekend trip, just the two of us. She always had a reason not to. She was tired, busy, needed to be there for Lily. And those were all valid reasons until they weren't. Until I realized it had been almost 3 months since we'd spent any intentional time alone. No dinners, no long talks, no moments that felt just ours. Even our physical closeness had faded to a memory. We weren't fighting. We weren't even disagreeing, which somehow felt worse. At least anger would have meant passion, effort, reaction. What we had now was apathy. She'd go to bed before me or stay up long after I'd fallen asleep. We barely touched, just brief, absent-minded contact when passing in the hallway or folding laundry. There were nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what it meant when you no longer knew how to reach the person lying inches away from you. And yet, I didn't ask. I didn't confront. I didn't accuse. I held on to the idea that maybe this was just a slow season, that we'd find our way back. That marriage, like life, had its ebbs and flows. But the feeling in my chest, that low, persistent ache, was getting harder to ignore. Like the storm was already forming on the horizon, and I was the only one pretending the sky was still clear. By the time fall rolled in, I started to feel like a visitor in my own life. The house was still the same creaky stair near the kitchen, same fading paint on the porch swing Rachel had insisted on getting, but it felt quieter, hollow in a way I couldn't explain. Even Scout, our golden retriever, had become unusually calm. He used to follow Rachel around like a shadow, but now he seemed to stick close to me, watching me with those worried eyes like he could sense something I couldn't say aloud. Rachel had become a master of half-presence. She was there, technically sitting at the dining table, folding laundry, helping Lily with her homework, but her mind was somewhere else. I'd talk to her, and she'd nod along, offer vague responses, then look down at her phone again, scrolling or typing with a kind of intensity that made me feel like I was interrupting. Conversations were short, polite, empty. If I didn't initiate them, they didn't happen. What gnawed at me most wasn't the lack of affection, it was the absence of curiosity. Rachel stopped asking me about my day. She didn't seem interested in what I was working on or who I was meeting. I could have told her I'd quit my job and moved to Alaska, and she probably would have just said, "Oh, okay," without looking up. It's a strange thing to grieve the loss of attention from someone who used to know everything about you. I used to be her person. Now I felt like a prop in the background of her life. Jake still came around every now and then. He and Lily were tight. She adored her uncle, and he always made her laugh with silly impressions and inside jokes. I didn't think much of it at first, but I did start to notice how animated Rachel became when he visited. She'd smile more, talk faster, seem more alive than I'd seen her in weeks. I chalked it up to family energy. That's what I told myself, anyway. It was easier than exploring the darker possibility that kept trying to crawl up from the back of my mind. I hadn't confronted her. I hadn't gone through her phone or followed her or tried to catch her in a lie. I didn't want to become that guy, the suspicious, paranoid husband who turns everything into an interrogation. I still loved her. Or maybe I loved the version of her I remembered. The one who used to fall asleep with her hand resting on my chest, who used to whisper dumb little jokes under her breath in crowded rooms just to make me laugh. But that version of Rachel hadn't been around in a long time. Some nights, I'd find myself staring at the ceiling long after she'd gone to sleep, wondering what had shifted, when we'd stopped being us. If I had missed the moment it happened, or if it had been a gradual fading, like a song you don't realize has ended until the silence feels deafening. I still didn't know what was really going on, but I knew this, something had broken. And the worst part was, I wasn't sure it could be fixed. It was a Thursday afternoon. I had wrapped up work early after a canceled client meeting and decided to head home ahead of schedule. I didn't call or text Rachel. I figured it would be a nice surprise. Maybe I'd even pick up dinner on the way and try, one more time, to pull us out of the fog we'd been living in. When I pulled into the driveway, Rachel's car wasn't there. That wasn't unusual. She'd been going out more lately, sometimes to run errands, sometimes to clear her head. I never asked for details anymore. I was tired of the half-answers. The house was quiet when I stepped inside, but I could hear voices upstairs, faint, high-pitched. Lily and her friend, Ava, were in her room. I smiled to myself, relieved for a moment. At least Lily seemed happy. I dropped my keys quietly on the counter and headed upstairs, planning to poke my head in and say a quick hello before letting them get back to whatever game or video they were watching. But then I paused at the door. I don't know what made me stop. Maybe it was Ava's voice, a little louder than Lily's, or maybe it was the tone, sharp, casual, almost teasing. Your dad doesn't even know. That's the funny part. I froze. Lily laughed, a little nervously. I know, right? He's so clueless. He just works and fixes the sink and does whatever. He doesn't even see it. Ava said something I couldn't make out, and then Lily again, clearer this time. She said not to say anything, that he'd freak out. But it's not like he'd do anything anyway. He can't. He's a loser. My stomach dropped. I stood there, heart pounding, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. She's always at Uncle Jake's now, Lily continued, her voice hushed but certain. Mom said it's their secret. But it's not really a secret. I mean, I figured it out, and I'm a kid. The floor tilted under me. I felt it, like my whole body had turned to ice. For a second, I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Uncle Jake. My brother. I stepped back slowly, careful not to make a sound, and went downstairs like a ghost. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at nothing. Everything started replaying in reverse, the changes in Rachel's behavior, the energy she had around Jake, the way she lit up when he came around, how she brushed me off when I suggested family nights or time together. I hadn't seen it. I hadn't wanted to see it. But now I couldn't unhear what I'd heard. And just like that, everything I thought I was building, everything I thought I knew collapsed. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't pace or cry or drink myself into numbness. I just sat in the living room while the house around me, the house I'd worked so hard to build, felt like it belonged to someone else. I kept hearing Lily's voice over and over again, calling me a loser. He doesn't even see it. He can't do anything. She didn't know I was there. But that didn't soften the blow. If anything, it made it worse. Because it meant she believed it. That both of them, my wife and my daughter, had rewritten the story of who I was while I was too busy trying to hold everything together. Rachel came home around 10:30. I heard the car pull up and watched through the window as she stepped out, calm, composed, phone in hand. She had no idea I knew. No clue what I'd heard. And that was the last bit of silence I could tolerate. She walked through the door with her usual distracted smile, about to say something. I didn't let her. "Don't unpack," I said, my voice steady. "You're not staying." She blinked, like I'd spoken a different language. "What? You and Lily need to leave. Tonight." Her confusion turned into mock outrage, like it always did when she wasn't in control. "Are you serious right now? What are you even talking about?" I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just said it, flat and final. "I heard Lily's conversation." "I know." Rachel's face changed instantly. Her expression flickered, shock, guilt, and then, in true Rachel fashion, indignation. "You're throwing your daughter out? What kind of man does that?" I walked past her and opened the front door. "You decided what kind of man I am when you slept with my brother." She didn't say anything after that. For once, Rachel had no comeback. I handed her the bag I'd packed. Just a few essentials, clothes, her laptop, the keys to her car. Everything else could rot here. I told her I'd transferred all the money into an account she couldn't access and canceled her cards. The house, the accounts, the titles, they were in my name. It wasn't by accident. I'd always been the one to handle the boring paperwork. Now, it mattered. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe she didn't. As she and Lily walked out, I didn't follow. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't even watch them go. I closed the door behind them and locked it, not just the deadbolt, but the chain too. Not out of fear, just for the finality of it. The sound of that lock sliding into place was the cleanest breath I'd taken in years. And later that night, when I picked up my phone, I sent Rachel exactly one thing. A video. Me and her sister. Her sister who had told me, more than once, that she always thought I deserved better. I hadn't listened then. But now, I understood exactly what she meant. After they left, the house was quiet in a way I hadn't experienced before. Not the cold, disconnected silence I'd been living in these past few months, but real silence. Clean. Whole. I stood in the middle of the living room that night with nothing but the hum of the refrigerator and the distant ticking of the wall clock, and I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Relief. The days that followed were a strange blur of calm and clarity. I cleared out the closet, boxed up Rachel's things, donated most of it. I repainted the master bedroom on a whim, just a different shade of gray, but it felt like mine now. I started cooking again, not just frozen meals or leftovers, but real cooking. It felt good to fill the house with new smells, new energy. I stopped checking my phone for her messages. She tried, of course. The calls came in waves. First angry, then pleading, then sad. I didn't answer any of them. There was nothing left to say. Nothing she could offer that would undo what she did, or what she let happen under my roof, in my life, with someone I trusted. Jake never reached out. I wasn't surprised. He knew the line he crossed couldn't be redrawn. Rachel's sister, Claire, didn't reach out either after that night. It wasn't something we talked about or followed up on. I didn't do it to hurt Rachel, at least, not entirely. Claire had been honest with me in a way no one else had. She didn't gloat or ask for anything. That night was about two broken people reaching for something human. Maybe it wasn't right, but it felt real. And then there was Emma. I met her at a bookstore. That's not a metaphor. An actual bookstore, the kind with uneven shelves and handwritten staff picks. We reached for the same book and ended up talking about it. She was funny, self-deprecating, sharp without being harsh. I told her I was divorced. She said, "Me too," and didn't ask for details. We got coffee, then dinner. Then we didn't force anything. Emma was different. She didn't ask me to prove anything. She didn't test me or try to change me. With her, I didn't feel like I was being measured or compared or quietly judged. We talked about real things, what scared us, what we wanted, what we lost. She didn't fill the empty space left behind by Rachel. She just stood beside it, unafraid of it. I still think about Lily. I miss her. I wonder what she's been told about why everything changed. I wonder if she still thinks of me as the loser who couldn't do anything. But I also know this. One day, when she's older, she'll understand. She'll see the difference between keeping peace and letting yourself be walked on. Between being present and being blind. I'm not blind anymore. This new life I'm building, It's quieter, simpler, but it's honest. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not just surviving it. I'm living it. 6 months have passed. The house feels lived in again, but in a different way. The rooms don't echo like they used to. The walls feel warmer somehow. I've hung new pictures, rearranged the furniture, changed the lights in the hallway Rachel always said were too bright. It's amazing how many small things become big when you no longer have to tiptoe around someone else's moods. I see Emma about once or twice a week. We're not rushing into anything. We're both old enough to know that healing doesn't happen on a schedule, but it's easy with her. Comfortable. I never have to guess where I stand. When she says she'll call, she calls. When she's upset, she tells me. No games. No secrets. Just the steady unfolding of something real. I still think about the wreckage I walked away from. Not because I miss it, but because it reminds me of what I survived. There was a time I would have done anything to save that marriage. I used to believe that love meant holding on, no matter what. That if you just gave more, forgave more, worked harder, things would eventually get better. I don't believe that anymore. Love shouldn't require blindness. It shouldn't feel like begging for scraps at your own table. And loyalty? It only means something if it goes both ways. I haven't spoken to Jake. I don't plan to. As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't exist. The kind of betrayal he chose doesn't get fixed with time or apologies. Some people cross a line and never come back from it. Rachel tried reaching out again a few weeks ago. A long message this time. Emotional. Winding. I miss what we had. I didn't mean for it to happen. Can't we talk just once? I didn't answer. I didn't even finish reading it. There was nothing left to say. She made her choices. I made mine. Lily's the only part that still tugs at me. She's young, and I don't blame her for what she said that day. Kids repeat what they hear, what they think they need to say to fit into the world around them. One day, when she's older, I hope we'll talk. I hope she'll come looking for me with her own questions, and I'll be ready, with honesty, not bitterness. But for now, I've had to let go of that too. I'm not the man I was a year ago. I'm quieter, sharper, more certain of what I will and won't accept. I don't flinch when I see happy couples, and I don't envy the kind of life I used to have. I know now that peace doesn't come from pretending everything's okay. It comes from walking away when it's not. This is my clean slate, my quiet life, my second chance, and I'm not wasting it.